really the only thing that your attic ceiling is made up of is just drywall, right? So when you get up there, like please look to where you're stepping and step on, support beams. Because if you do step on that drywall, it will crack and crumble. And I've seen people fall through ceilings before. It's not fun. It's not fun at all.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches. This is an installation episode where we're going to be doing something a little special today. We're going to be getting our panel expert. They're going to give you each one specific tip if you're a do-it-yourself customer. So if you're looking to install your security camera system, whether large or small, we're going to share one tip with you, and hopefully that will pay off in the end. So yeah, obviously we have our usual awesome installation panel full of people with, God, what's our combined experience with this stuff here, but decades of experience on installation, security cameras, etc. And let's go ahead and dive right into it. Cal, I'll start with you. What's your number one tip to a do-it-yourself client?
Yeah, if you're, buying a system from us and trying to install yourself, I'd say the most important thing to do, especially when running your cabling for these cameras, is to leave service loops. So what service loops are is just basically extra slack footage at the end of your cable run that you kind of coil up and leave in a nice little loop, sort of close to the camera mounting location. So down the road, if you ever want to move the camera, or if you have any issues with your cabling or anything, that drops the camera offline, you've got some extra cable at the end of your run that you can utilize instead of having to do the entire pull again. Saves a bunch of time, a bunch of unneeded return trips to address that offline camera.
How long should a service loop be, just in general? Is there a
Rule of thumb, I usually do 10 feet. For exterior locations, you might want to save a little bit more, maybe 15 feet in case you have to move, somewhere further on the exterior of the building, but 10 feet's usually what everybody leaves.
Gotcha. And can you explain in more detail, like where is that service loop? Is that something they put it in like the mounting box, or where does it actually exist physically?
Yeah, the mounting box would be a little hard to cram 10 feet in there. I'd say don't do that. If you can keep from doing that, it'll probably kink up or
Not
ruin
sure that
your
you
cable.
could physically do that.
I don't know. If you like a really tight coil,
I've seen some things, but
maybe in one of the PTZ electrical mounting boxes, you
there
could
you go. Might fit in that
possibly.
one.
Now, usually, say if it's the exterior camera, just put it your 10 feet on the inside of the penetration, so the inside of the wall before you go out to the mounting location. If you're on an interior camera and you have like open ceiling or something like that, I'd leave it up in the Wilson joists, or somewhere attached to the open ceiling up out of the way. If you're in a drop ceiling or something like that, just anywhere to the nearest support, you could zip tie the service loop there. Just neat, out of the way, out of sight, but know it's there if you need it.
Maybe one other really basic question here, like how do you wrap it up? Like what do you use? A zip tie, or is there something else there? Or
Velcro. If you're in an interior location, I would always recommend using Velcro to tie up your service loops, because then you don't have to cut the zip ties off and you can reuse the Velcro. It's easier, kind of quicker. And zip ties too. I mean, you could potentially damage the cabling when you're cutting the zip tie loose.
Or
Not a
if you
huge
ratchet
deal.
down too tight,
yeah.
yeah.
Right, right. Just Velcro is always safer. If it's exterior and you have to, physically attach the service loop to something to keep it out of the way or organized, then, zip ties as a last resort. But Velcro, definitely recommend.
Those are actually great points, because I think what people don't realize is even though it's extra cable in a service loop, it's still part of your data transmission medium, so to speak. So data's still got to flow through that whole little thing you made to store, right? So if you crimp it too hard, or if you put kinks in it, you got to remember bend radius is really important. Don't bend it too tight.
All right, so that's service loops. Let's move on to tip number two. Gil, what do you got for us?
Well, everyone in the organization knows I'm kind of into making sure that the team stays safe when they're installing. So safety is a big one for me, especially if it's something that you're not used to doing. Installing cable and devices on a structure can be difficult at times and can require some things that might take you out of your comfort zone. Heights, working at heights, working in crawl spaces and tight locations. These are all things that could eventually cause an issue or some kind of occurrence that might get an injury. So staying as safe as possible is the most important thing. If you're not sure what that takes, there's a lot of information on the internet associated with installing systems safely. When it comes to working on ladders, working with power tools, and whatnot, there's plenty of information. We call them tech tool talks or toolbox discussions. You can find safety toolboxes on the internet also. So whatever you plan on doing, if you're cutting, drilling, anything like that, you might want to just make sure that you know what avenues to look at for safe installation.
I think that's a pretty great tip. Be safe while you're doing this. And
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. Just about everybody is at least worked with a drill of some kind. Maybe just drilling screws into some new furniture that you bought. Who knows, right? But drilling into a structure at 12-foot high on a ladder is a whole different ballgame. And probably the best person to talk to that here is probably Cal, because he's probably done it a million times, and he knows drilling on solid surface just in a table is one thing to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're drilling into a structure, especially if it's like a concrete structure, some kind of masonry, and you're on a ladder to boot, like definitely make sure that the feet of the ladder are extremely secure on the ground, before you start climbing up and drilling. And if it is masonry, if it's not, whatever, you're that much higher up, you just need to make sure you're braced and you're ready to go. And just in the back of the head, if the ladder were to start moving or you were to fall, kind of have a plan in your head as to like how you're gonna fall or what you're gonna grab onto or something like that. I mean, I know it sounds terrible, but it's saved me a few times. So.
Sure. Absolutely.
And one thing I think is really important with this too is that this is, we for a lot of things that we can call our support team and they can help you set up the recording schedules and the alerts, and you want this specific camera to do this specific thing, and we can work you through and get that actually accomplished. This installation side, the physical mounting that camera to the wall, running the cable, that's all specifically on the do-it-yourself client. So you've got to do that. You've got to do it in a way that's safe and reliable. So
Right.
anything else you want to add to
the other
that?
thing is you want to think about safety as far as how you're mounting things too, because you don't want things to fall off on people. You don't want the camera to fall off your building and hit someone in the head that's walking under it. You don't want to mount your recorder on a shelf in your home office and have it not be structurally sound and it fall off and hurt somebody. Just things like that. It's not just while you're installing, but you want the installation to be safely installed also for any future applications.
Especially for like the PTZs and heavier cameras, right? Like those things would
absolutely
ruin a couple of days if they fell. So
the other thing is probably the other thing I can think of that might come in regards to do-it-yourselfers is working in confined spaces. And that basically means like in the cracks and crevices of your structure, up in an attic or a crawl space, down underneath a building crawl space. Those are all places that have their own set of concerns when it comes to safety. So
Watch out for
careful.
raccoons.
What's that?
Vermin. Yep.
Snakes. I mean, everything, right?
during the, the attic of your house too. That's, if we're speaking to the DIYer more so, I mean, if you're not experienced in moving throughout an attic and stuff like that, I mean, really the only thing that your attic ceiling is made up of is just drywall, right? So when you get up there, like, please look to where you're stepping and step on, support beams. Because if you do step on that drywall, it will crack and crumble. And I've seen people fall through ceilings before. It's not fun. It's not fun at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, just know where you're stepping, and if you're stepping through insulation or something in an attic, just kneel down, kind of brush some of it away so you can see, the spacing of the support beams to step on those, because I'd hate for you to have to patch a hole in your ceiling.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
What would your recommendations be around like breathing in those spaces and masks and those kinds of dangers?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know what materials you have in your structure that could be an issue, I would have a mask available. Something that could at least keep particulates out, because we definitely know that there's dust and particulates in some of these confined spaces for sure. Now, when you're talking about fiberglass, or even working in a building old enough to have asbestos, that's a whole nother level, and you better know ahead of time before you get up in those locations. But good point.
Yeah, I think there's a lot, for that. And, in this case, safety is usually number one, even though it's our second tip actually. But, I think if you don't feel comfortable, there's times where you can still bring in. There's never too late to bring in an expert if you feel like you're overwhelmed on that, on the safety aspect. So, definitely get in touch with us or another professional installation company to jump in. So
Bottom line is, don't do anything you're not comfortable with.
yeah,
If you feel weird about it, don't do it, because that's what issues.
cool. Well, I think that is a good wrap. We could talk about that. That's an episode in itself. We should do at some point some big safety tips and everything. But let's move on to tip number 3 for now. And Micah, what do you got for us?
Not surprisingly, based on my role in the organization, but documentation, which the big thing for that when it comes to your install is going to be labeling your cables. And we got into that pretty deep in another episode. I really liked the emoji sticker idea. But in short, labeling your cables will save you down the road. If something is not working as you expected, being able to go to your head end and go, this cable goes to this camera, will shorten your troubleshooting journey significantly.
Totally. If
We're
anyone,
all
if
on.
anyone has ever had to deal with having to tone out cables to figure out what's what, a little label, a little written label will save a lot of time.
And the larger your system too, the more this becomes like absolutely critical. Coming from the
Mm-hmm.
support team, like, and dealing with a lot of do-yourself clients, a lot of times like they install it great, everything's working fine, and then maybe 2 years later, they're moving, they're changing something in facility, and the person who installed it didn't document it, and either forgot, is no longer there, and then you're in a situation where you're sort of having to remap this entire system, and it's instead of like knowing exactly where everything is, a lot of times they don't even know where that switch exists physically in the facility. They've lost that knowledge. So being able to document where things are, as well as label the cables, and will save you a lot of time, hassle, etc. And again, we do have a full video where we discuss all that, how you do it, why you do it, etc. That you guys can take a quick look at if you're interested. Anything we want to add to that before we jump off that topic, though? No, feel
I
pretty
have
good.
one more tip I want to add.
Okay.
And we can cut it out if you don't feel it, but I feel like mounting boxes, um, don't overlook them. They will save you so much time when it comes to troubleshooting down the road. Your ability to access that cable and get that camera back on the wall it just cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're only making those screw holes, or whatever you do to attach the electrical mounting box to the structure surface once, right? If you don't use the electrical mounting box, your camera goes offline. You have to take those screws out and put them back in, and they just tend to widen
And
and
I mean,
widen.
if you're doing that on masonry, you end up that hole get degraded over time if you're screwing and unscrewing it over and over again. It's just not designed for that. I mean, you can use anchors and other things that will help, but you will save yourself so much headache by using mounting boxes.
Yeah, and if I had like another just a tip, since I'm not just the good looking host, I will say like weatherproofing in general is like the number one. The number one thing that we have do yourself clients call in with that are non-warranty repairs or issues is they didn't put in the RJ45 weatherproof connector, or they didn't do a mounting box to weatherproof their cabling. And it's cabling more than anything. It's like the cameras very rarely have water issues or weather issues. It's almost always that cable got corroded, the corrosion corroded the actual camera pigtail part, and then their incorrect weatherproofing or water damage like that is actually not something that's covered under anybody's warranty. So you got to make sure you do that so you can keep your camera secure. There's some ways to repair it and stuff, but in general, you want to make sure that you don't have to go up there and replace the cable end. So I think mounting boxes go perfectly with that. So but yeah, I think those are three really good, three and a half, 4 tips. Do you think? Well, I'll call it
The
four.
fourth tip,
Yeah, fourth. We got
there are 4
tips here.
tips. I'm counting a fourth tip. Nobody
yeah,
expects the
so-
Spanish
Actually,
Inquisition.
weatherproof makes it 5.
For the 4th tip, head to the
I'm gonna put
Patreon.
those together because like 4 is a cool number. No, 5 is my favorite number actually. But yeah, I think those are some great tips to get started with, and of course we have our so many resources on do-yourself installation. That's how we started. So you can go through and read all of that. Get in touch with us if you have questions, looking for general advice on how to install certain things or anything like that. We're definitely here as a resource to help you get your camera installed safely and reliably for years to come. So yeah, that'll end it for this episode. Thank you, awesome panel as usual, for joining in and providing your expertise on this topic, and we'll see you again on the next one. See ya.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Bye.